Hello, fellow educators. Welcome to the first episode of Teacher's Tint, a place to regain your strength after a long day, week, or maybe semester this 2023. I'm your host, Steve G, and today we'll talk about Teaching Now and Then, Part 1. If you're new to teaching, you'll be shocked to hear what teaching was like some years ago. If you're a seasoned educator, we hope to bring a smile to your face with some memories that you didn't even remember about. Part 1 will deal with teachers, while next week's Part 2 will cover students, both now and then. So, let's start with teachers. I started teaching in 1984. Lots has changed for me since. A different century, a different country. I've only taught in the US for about 16 years, and above all, a different me. Many external things, however, have also dramatically changed for teachers in these 30 plus years. For brevity, in today's episode, I have decided to focus on just the top 5 elements on my list. Firstly, the chalk. I remember having my clothes covered in limestone as I returned home in the evenings during my first years of teaching. Chalk has given way to technology via the dry erase markers and ultimately as we now rely upon smartboards in our classrooms. This pencil and paper to gadget transition has been great, but not without challenges, especially for those of us who were not born with a cell phone in our hands. I thank heaven daily for my co-workers in the fifth grade, both of whom have an amazing command of technology and help me out when I'm stuck with something. Go, Miss Pearls and Miss D. Not the real names, of course. A second element that has changed is the classroom itself. A good teacher years ago would always have a neat set of rows, all facing forward, with students copying quietly off the almighty board that was, yes, covered in chalk. Today we see collaboration between students with U shape, V shape, and all shapes possible scattered throughout the room. Teachers have learned that in this century, the workforce requires employees who are able to work alongside others, feeding off others' strengths to be successful. Thirdly, the teacher, him or herself. Back then, he or she was the sole fountain of knowledge, was never wrong, and was running the whole show. So you didn't want to interrupt him or else. Today, the teacher understands that being a facilitator in an environment that at some point becomes student led is more effective than anything else. No longer is the teacher expected to be right or to be the one with a sole right answer. Today, teachers and students, together, look for a solution to an unknown question. Also, the way teachers are perceived socially has changed. In the past, the educator had the last word and was respected, even if that respect came out of fear sometimes. Today, this is a hard and controversial point. Sadly, teachers are leaving the profession more than ever. One of the top reasons being they don't feel respected. Some have even experienced physical assault or verbal abuse from the students or their parents. The issue of school safety applies now, more than ever, to children, of course, but also to the educators who work in an instructional environment and need to feel safe and protected in their workplaces. The tragic recent shooting of a Virginia teacher by her 6-year-old student is a sad example of this. Finally, a very personal factor, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of it: teachers' self confidence. In the past, teachers had this "I don't care about what anyone thinks" mentality. They pretty much reminded me of my own parents. They knew what they had to do and did it without giving it much thought. By opposition, I see teachers today experiencing high levels of hesitation and anxiety, many times double guessing themselves, afraid of carrying out what they believe needs to be done. We know that social media has provided an easier access for people to find out what others think of what we do or think or say in our lives. This has made many people more vulnerable to others' opinions. Teachers have been no exception to this. I perceive many educators today are sadly doubting their own capacity to do a good job. When I was a kid, my teachers never cared what their colleagues down the hall thought of them. However, today we see educators worrying that their posts on social media didn't get enough likes and wondering as a result whether they should reconsider their actions. In conclusion, chalk and technology, the classroom layout, the all knowing teacher, the social perceptions on teachers, and teachers' attitudes are the five topics on my top five list that we have covered in today's episode Teaching, Now, and Then, Part 1. I would love to hear what items would make your top five list. Feel free to email me at steve at teacherstent.com with your comments. Again, that's steve at teacherstent.com. In the meantime, join us next week for the remaining part 2 of today's episode Students, Now and Then. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to let your colleagues and friends know about it. Have a great week.